Hello everyone and welcome to the first video-based orientation for the UC Davis Craft Center Studios. Today we'll be covering the Ceramic Studio. In this video we'll cover all the equipment, materials, and tools that are available for you to use with your quarter or class use pass. Though this video is comprehensive, you'll still have to meet with the studio manager to sign your waiver and briefly give the studio a walkthrough in person. Let's first start out in the tool room. If you have purchased a quarter pass or have a class pass, you also have access to check out tools from our tool room for free. To check out tools, grab the yellow tool checkout slip from the front desk, record your name, the date, and mark which tools you would like. Leave your quarter pass with the tool checkout slip and a volunteer will get the things that you need from the tool room for you. The Ceramic Studio has a wide variety of tools, which also includes a standard kit of 8 basic tools. Let's go through the rest of the tools and see what's available. We've got clay cutters and hole punches, calipers to measure. We've got chamois for finishing rims and etc. We've got wood finishing tools for carving and for forming clay. We've got carving tools for doing detailed work. And then we have dies for the extruder. We also have rubber ribs of 3 different hardnesses. We've got various brushes. We've got metal ribs. We've got needle tools and miscellaneous forks and knives. We've got plenty of wooden ribs. And then we have fettling knives. There are slip trailers for glazing and plastic scrapers for cleaning. Plenty of sponges. Loop tools. Large trim tools. Bat pins for throwing on bats, miscellaneous drawer. In the larger bins on the bottom we also have wooden paddles, large extruder dies, and then we have pot lifts if you don't want to throw on bats. You can use these to lift your work off the wheel head. If you'd like to fully explore our tool room, feel free to ask a volunteer to allow you back to take a look. Let's begin at the front door. Here you can find smocks to protect your clothing as you work in the studio. Be sure to replace them before you leave. On the door, you can also find the kiln firing schedule, as well as the calendar for the studio. The studio schedule shows you the dates and times for every class that is offered during the quarter. If a class is canceled, it will be crossed out on the calendar. If you're not enrolled in the class, we ask that you respect the time schedule for classes. It's not against the rules to use the studio during a class, but it's ultimately up to the instructor. If you plan on using the studio during a class time, be sure to be there before the class begins and ask the instructor if it's okay. During a wheel throwing class, it's normally not a bother to be hand building or glazing. During a hand building class, the same goes for using the wheel. Regardless, we still ask that you clear it with the instructor before you do so. In the studio, we have 12 kick wheels and 5 electric wheels. We're proud to also offer an electric wheel that is wheelchair accessible. When using the electric wheels, use the switch on the side to turn them on or off. Be sure to clean your wheel and turn it off when you're finished working. Our electric wheels are also equipped to run clockwise as well as the traditional counterclockwise direction. This is useful for left-handed potters. Use the switch on the bottom to change the direction. The Ceramic Studio has 2 sets of wedging tables. The large wedging table is for use with light clay bodies only. This means that you should only use B-Mix, Buff, and Solidate 60 on this table. The other clay bodies, especially Death Valley and recycled clay, should be wedged on the smaller wedging table between the damp box and the lockers. This is to prevent the contamination of color between clay bodies. Now, let's briefly cover workflow in the studio. A quarter or class pass provides you with free bisque and glaze firings for all of your work. The only thing you need to do is correctly label your work and put it on the right shelves at each stage of the process. These are the greenware shelves in the clay storage area. Here you can store your work as it's in process. Feel free to dry your work to trimming consistency here or to store any sculptures that are in process. There are plastic bags available for use in the blue bin next to the shelves. Once your work is trimmed or otherwise finished and signed with your unique marker initials, you can place it on the To Be Bisque shelf outside. Remember that we will not fire any work that is not signed with some form of identifying mark. Be sure to identify your work correctly. Carefully take your work out to the courtyard. Once there, place it on the bisque shelf that matches the height of the work to save space for other participants. Our studio will do its best to bisque fire work as soon as there is enough greenware to fill the kiln. You can claim your bisque fired work on the shelf directly opposite the electric kilns. Once you've glazed your work, place it on the rolling glazeware shelves at the back of the studio. Be sure to put your work on a shelf of the appropriate height as shown here. We can fill the kiln and do a firing when both glazeware carts are nearly full. Check the kiln firing schedule if you have a specific deadline. Remember that we also announce the firings on our Facebook page. When your glazed work has been fired, you can claim it on the rack in the tool room. Ask to be let back to check the rack. Be sure to record your unique mark on your quarter pass so that you can verify that your work is in fact yours. Now that we've covered workflow, we'll discuss glazes. There are 4 types of glazes available to you in the studio at no extra cost. They are high fire glazes, slip glazes, underglazes, and oxides. High fire glazes are found in the buckets on the glazing table and must be mixed before each use. If you need help understanding how to use these, be sure to watch our video on glazing or take the glaze workshop. Slip glazes can be found on the top shelf. These are meant for use on greenware and are a liquid clay with colorant added. Underglazes are found directly below them. Oxides are directly to the right of the underglazes. Wax resist is also located next to the slip glazes. When using wax, be sure to use the specified wax brushes. You can check out brushes from the tool room to use for underglazes, oxides, and slip glazes if you can't find the variety or size that you need. After using a brush, be sure to rinse it out in the large sink by the door. Under no circumstances should you allow clay, glaze, or wax to go down the small sink drain. All cleanup of tools and materials should be done in the large sink located next to the wheels. All of our glazes have examples that you can use if you're unfamiliar with their effects. Our high fire glaze examples are on a wall above the electric wheels. They show 1 and 2 coats of each glaze on 3 different clay bodies. You can find the slip glaze and underglaze examples next to the scale. Oxide example tiles are in the tray with the oxides. The ceramic studio has few threats to health. However, there are some safety concerns while working. Repeated exposure to airborne silica or clay dust can cause long-term damage to the lungs. Therefore, be sure to do any sanding of dry clay or bisqueware outside of the studio in a well-ventilated area. If you feel the studio is dusty, you can turn on the air filter that's located next to the greenware shelves. To avoid getting dust in the air, be sure that anytime you clean up, you use a wet sponge to do so. Never sweep in the ceramic studio. The ceramic studio is also equipped with an eye wash station if you should ever get anything in your eye while working. To use this, simply push the paddle forward and rinse your eyes out for 30 seconds. The slab roller is a very versatile and useful tool in the ceramic studio. We use the slab roller to flatten large amounts of clay into an even sheet, which can then be made into sculpture, plates, or anything else you can imagine. To adjust the thickness of your slab, add or remove wooden sheets beneath the slab roller, as shown. A variety of thicknesses are available and are stored on the wall next to the slab roller. First, use the wheel to roll the tube back as far as possible. Remember to keep your hands clear of this rolling tube anytime that you operate the slab roller. Before you begin rolling your slab out, grab a thin linen sheet from the shelf directly behind you. The sheets on top are for light clay bodies, and the sheets on the bottom are for dark or recycled clay. Once you've placed the linen sheet down over top of the wooden slabs, you can place your clay on the surface. Never roll clay slabs out onto the wooden sheets directly. Anytime you roll a slab, the clay should be squeezed between 2 sheets of fabric. Clay should never contact the metal drum. If it does, you're using it incorrectly. Once your slab is rolled, pick it up and move it to your workspace using the thin sheet. Be sure to replace the sheet when you're done. The damp box is another useful tool in the studio. Use the damp box to keep your work moist for extended periods of time. The damp box is most effective to slowly dry clay for carving purposes or to alter wheel-thrown vessels, or when hand-building sculptures. If you're just trying to keep a bowl moist for trimming later, using a bag is more effective. Be courteous and leave space in the damp box for those who truly need it. When you're done throwing or hand-building, you can throw your scraps into the recycled clay bin. We recycle and reconstitute this clay, then sell it at the front desk for $4 a bag. When you put clay in the recycle bin, be sure that it is only clay and contains no bat pins or small tools. Anytime you use the ceramic studio, you will be cleaning up your own mess. Remember that when you do any rinsing or washing of tools or hands, the only sink that should be used is the large sink by the door. This is the only sink that's equipped to filter out the minerals, wax, and clay, and therefore keep them out of our sewer systems. Work in our ceramic studio can only be so large. We have size restrictions posted on the wall behind the electric wheels. Use this poster to ensure that your work is no taller than 18 inches tall and 14 inches wide. Consult the studio manager if you would like to request permission to get larger work fired. Lastly, the quarter or class pass only allows up to 30 completed pieces maximum per quarter per person. There are a lot of users in our studio, and we're not a professional production studio. To ensure that everyone can get their work fired on time, we must enforce this limit. Now that you learned what there is to know about our studio, be sure to meet with the ceramic studio manager to sign your liability waiver and get any additional questions you may have answered. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Hope to see you in the studio soon.